occupiers of this dear polluted and only spaceship, the one that has, from the last time that we saw each other in this means, has been revolving its own imaginary axis and still has events happening in its surface. And there's one last minute, an unfortunate one in Genoa coming, and images come from Italy indicating that there has been an accident. One of the old bridges in Genoa that fell down, was destroyed, and which has to do with the meteorological conditions. But that's the last minute information that we have, and this is what we have downloaded from the satellites in Italy, and to show you the events happening at the right now, this unfortunate episode that has generated several casualties and hurts. Close to 30 fatalities after the collapse of the bridge, and Matteo Salvini is speaking, Minister of adults in Italy. Unfortunately, we're talking about 30 fatalities, and as intervention, the work required. But tonight we will find out who is the responsible. All the guilty people, all these fatalities are not acceptable. So the minister is also saying that after so many schools, hospitals, highways require maintenance, they tell us we cannot have more expenses and make maintenance, but due to the deficit, the European deficit, and that is what happens when you don't spend money on maintenance. Dogs to help find people or bodies that may be under the rubble. They have used helicopters. All the possibilities to lend a hand all these are very adverse conditions. We see the collapse was huge. Close to 30 people, including children, have died today, August 14, on the bridge because of the collapse of the bridge in Genoa, Italian city. And also Prime Minister Salvini has said while he was in Sicily, there's a section of 50 meters in height fell, including the support. Everything collapsed because of the rains and at the age of the bridge. So general forces are looking for people, survivors, the helicopters among the rubble, and emergency staff are working. All the units are working there. Firemen are there. Fire people are there to see how the structures have collapsed horribly, and they're evaluating right now. Several emergency workers, all the services, all the units show the brutality of the collapse. 50 meters collapsed. Damaged part of the bridge, and also the firemen, the rescuers, close to a destroyed truck. Everything, all very difficult conditions to work in. The emergency services have looked among the rubbles in the bridge in the port city of Genoa in Italy, because they expect tens of hundreds of people that have died, and maybe some have been rescued. This was built in the decade in 1960s, in the 60s, and it collapsed at 11:30 during the heavy rains. The ambulance service chiefs said that they had dozens of dead people. At least 10 people have died, and like 20 vehicles were rescue units said that they can only confirm 2 hurt people, but that is a very partial view of what is happening. But unfortunately, I believe there's a lot of lot of dead people that we cannot talk about. The restructuring of the bridge happened in 2016, and it was to make, and they were doing work on the foundations of the bridge when the collapse happened. So the bridge was constantly monitored. And we are in Yemen right now. The main coordinator for the UN visits the children, the hurt children, by the terribly sad aerial bombing. In the hospital, the coordinator for the UN is visiting a humanitarian visit with the children of the aerial attack, and the meeting with the local authorities, the local and all the politicians responsible to lend a helping hand, lend some
What we are
aid.
seeing today are the victims of the airstrike. The terrible human cost of the airstrike.
The cost of the human bombardment. The entire world condemns this war. So the United States has demanded a research, transparent and immediate investigation. And the coordinator for the UN in Yemen, I am here to express our solidarity in this with the governor, with all the authorities and all the victims and their families. There's never justification for something like this.
The governor, with His Excellency, the head of NAMSHA, with all of the victims and with their families.
وبصفتي منسق الشؤون الإنسانية في اليمن فأنا اليوم هنا للتضامن مع
representatives in UNICEF in Yemen is saying, I came to the hospital today to visit children that were hurt in the last bombing. I have seen 13 children and I hope that they will leave soon the hospital and they'll go back playing football, go back to their normal lives, because it's been a shocking and terrifying attack that not only physical damages but also psychological for their lives. They're outside of the hospitals, and the representatives are in Yemen. So UNICEF has answered with medical supplies and support for the children. But the important thing is that the event will not happen again. We don't happen again. We don't want to treat any more children. The objective is that the children are not targets. This is not logical. They cannot be murdered. We have to stop this war. The humanitarian coordinators in the United Nations had declared this.
But the important thing is that these attacks don't repeat again. We don't need to come back again and treat.
The important thing is that this doesn't happen again. We don't want to come back to do it again, to attack two children who have nothing to do with the situation. Who visited the hospital in the Sahara where children were received for treatment in Afghanistan. Afghan troops, supported by the U.S. forces, they attacked a great part of the city of Ghazni. The smoke, and this is the remains of the attacks, and look at the corpses on the street. Burned buildings, and it's an Taliban attack. We see people that are talking outside of hospitals. The hospitals don't have enough space. Vehicles destroyed in the middle of the city. The city is destroyed. The Afghan troops, supported by the U.S. forces, they had control of the Ghazni cities, while the Taliban attacks have raised questions regarding security in Afghanistan. They showed destruction and corpses and gas in the city. It's a ghost town mostly. The intense combats has shocked Ghazni during the weekend so far. China expresses complete discontent with the defense project in the United States, and tensions rise between the United States and the Chinese giant. That's their shield. That's the forbidden city in the background. Those historical sites. And we go to the White House, where the tensions with China still has not ceased since Trump has assumed their charge, and they have to supply this support for the communicates between China and the United States that Trump seems to does not want to fulfill the agreement. So the United States to stop the tensions between China, the President asked the United States to stop the tensions with China and the relations of the bilateral cooperation between both nations, and that have worked so far. China opposes against the United States to participate military participation with Taiwan. Remember that Taiwan was left in the margins of the communist China, and the White House is reacting to this. That's the Capitol Hill, the monument, and that's we have the big dome and the obelisk, as well as the entrance to the Forbidden City in China in its capital, and the Avenue of Celestial Peace. China opposes the United States for the United States participate in any type of military participation with Taiwan, and the spokesperson from Taiwan said this. And Taiwan is it's a very sensitive issue. Trump should have thought twice before touching that subject. Communications are bettered between China and Vietnam. Vietnamese citizens carrying vegetables, who run to present their products in the fairs, that they're going to go and they're finding why journalists ask, why are you running fast? Say, I'm running fast because I have to. There won't be enough space for me to sell my vegetables and fruits. So the president has not mentioned. There was a resident there who supported that idea in the street, so that the farmers can present their farmers. We don't have enough vegetables on this side of the Red River, so we bring our vegetables as soon as possible, and very fresh ones. On the other, and another service in the inspection in Hecoy, the people in the cooperation area in several industries and technological industries. We live close to China. For me, I am curious about China. I want to go to China. I want to see how China is like and how we can develop. How can it develop so quickly? Their colleagues, their work colleagues, and a Vietnamese worker. I think that working here is very good. Supervisors are kind, and they teach us carefully what we need to know. People working, and afterwards sharing their moments in their resting, in their breaks. There's the area of cooperation, Lao Kai Heku. That's an aerial view in the train, and a train. There's a very fast development that without leaving their roots, their country roots aside. In the past, the transportation depended on trucks, and the costs were high. And now, with this new initiative, with the new Belt and Road, they have built this train station. Now we use the train to deliver our products, our imported and exported products. It's more secure, and the transportation costs are not so high, and it's more environment friendly. And we use now electricity instead of oil for several types of needed power. And China and the route is the same principle for the people's consultation. So a very violent tornado that we can see in the back. It touches ground in the north of China, destroying towns. These news are coming from the Far East. Very strong wind that destroy roofs and throwing debris on all sides. We can see here now the damages and the debris flying. These are not, that is not paper, that is debris. Electricians repairing electrical posts, parking in the engineering areas. A very strange or unexpected tornado touched in the province in the north of China, and has destroyed housings. There's no roof, no walls. There's no utilities. Nothing is working. The super tornado that happened at 7:30 a.m. and it destroyed several villages and agricultural fields. And as we saw we saw how the impact of the tornado affected the houses, and the ambassador in the United States got together with the Kentucky representative and to talk about business and trade. They look at this with very good eyes. And the ambassador in China, they met with the Kentucky governor to talk about the trade and in the capital in Frankfurt. And talking about his vehicle industry is in. So the governor had a very optimistic view with the ambassador, promising to bring more aerial companies to the state. Tariffs, taxes for both countries will begin in August 23rd. The vehicles and car transportation represent 60% of in Kentucky in the exports to China. But now with these new tariffs, this is Trump's hand, and China will apply 25% taraffs on the 16 billion from the United States. In 23rd August is the date, and after the tariffs have been raised for several products for $24 billion worth. That will begin in August, and that is also this protection from Trump is impacting this industry. So things do not look good. Ports continue their normal rhythms. Super containers come and go, but the tariffs will be felt, especially for those declarations, for those affected by this maneuver, this non-orthodox maneuver for the economical liberalism from the bully in the White House. So raising in tariffs in the European Union, and this is an answer to Trump. So nowadays, for the producers in the United States, processed beans packaged in industries, they exported it very easily in cans for Europe, and now Europe is saying we will apply tariffs for those beans too. And these people had an insured market, and Biden being saying, my family has been here since 1852. I am the seventh generation of this agricultural business, family business, and this is the worst thing that a government has done to us. This is the worst thing. With the old logo. And this is what Trump gives away. The workers inspect the packaging, and Brown, the president of Chippewa Bean, said we have stopped sending our clients to our clients. They're canceling our contracts, and let's see if something we need to renegotiate again. So we're looking to renegotiate the price for beneath our margins. We cannot work without a margin profits. So Chippewa Bean Company, which is a huge company, had an insured market in Europe for all the beans, the packaged beans. And the founder of Chippewa Company saying the tariffs are never good for anybody. So we would rather have more business and trade that helps us than aid. Aid is something temporary. We cannot do our business. We cannot carry our business normally as we would. If we would be able to do our business normally, we would not need aid offered by Trump. So Cindy Brown Township Valley Bean Company president saying agricultural producers cannot work beneath their profit margins, so this is not sustainable. So there has been a lot of bankruptcy in the agriculture, and this is not improving short term. The story is that this company was a pioneer. They're still going underneath. Russia says that the condition says that the refugees can go back to Syria because conditions have changed. The minister, the Turkish minister, participating in the public scenarios, and the ambassador is saying we will assess what we can do to prevent and to fight against terrorism. Our leaders, our president, and our president, Russian president, met together in the margin in Johannesburg. They talk on the phone, as well as military and intelligence units. They still work together, and we hope to find a solution to the problem with this cooperation. Turkey, that used to be the sensitive issue in NATO, has left and said those armed groups that do not want to be associated to the terrorism, so that those irreconcilable centers has to be destroyed. They have to be destroyed, and this agreement has been in several provinces, and it's more complicated than other areas, but has always been complicated. And he says when the observation points were open in Turkey, in the Pacific Peace Group, but now we have seen very aggressive issues regarding the Syrian military sending drones to attack Russians to several bases, and other actions which are real provocations.
Многих дронов ежедневно с целью обстрела российской авиационной базы Хмеймим.
The Syrian army has all the right to repress all the activities, and we cannot say that the Syrian army is in their soil and sovereignty. They're fighting for their independence. They're fighting against the terrorists in their own soil, and with total agreements with the UN, with resolution number 24. And here we agree completely with the international law, and we give support to the Syrian army in this specific case. The Ministry for International Affairs saying that they hope to find a peaceful agreement during this meeting. As we say, we can see it has been very productive. Great floodings, killing at least 32 people, and 64,000 without homes in the southern state in India. That is, in principle, when the police had told us that the flooding, we were not concerned because the river doesn't grow too much during the monsoon. But this has been very different. When the flooding came, it was too late to pack, and suddenly it went over 2 meters, and we just ran off. We could only worry about what we were wearing. We had to leave everything behind. These floods. The floods overtake highways, roads, and with this terrible rains in India. Malayalam, who will give us testimony, and look at the level of the waters. Beneath it, you had parks, roads, some housing, low-level housing, and all the. We did not expect that the river would raise its level so soon and so quickly and so high. Suddenly, we found water in the entire home. We cannot live here. We can contract, especially our children, we can contract diseases in the skin. So we have to, because we walk with water, waist-high water, and we had to sleep in our neighbor's house who has whose house is on an higher level, higher ground. We see children on the stairs picking whatever clothing they can find, victims from the flooding. My home has been totally destroyed. My furniture was completely destroyed, as well as food and the clothing that I had put away. It was all taken away by the flood. The flood came very quickly to my house, and we ran away as fast as we could, and we couldn't do anything. We only had time to take our. I was only able to save this clothing and this textile, but I think we should look at ourselves in that mirror and bless our weather that we have in Venezuela, especially in Caracas. So first, to help the children and the women who are in conditions who are about to give birth, and this is a very sad reality that we are witness and that we share with you. If the conditions worsen, some have to say with the pollution that we have caused in the planet, and this is what the planet gives back to us, our dear beloved and only polluted and only spaceship. And right now, we have already shown you the information regarding the flooding in India, and I don't know, we don't know. So a brief break, and we will come back with everything that is happening currently. We come back with several events happening at the same time, and with that, I want to show you first of all this document. The page that I have in the middle is the registry, national international registry for our issues being developed at the moment, specifically for all the media, companies. This is a complement of the same, the copyright, and specifically goes specifically what we said in development. There's several decades ago, this has been property has been copyrighted. This is according to the laws in Venezuela, that we see that to clarify this copyright and intellectual property, and I want to read the document. I do not authorize any TV channel program in any communications, in any medium, in radio or press that are used these phrases that have been trademarked and copyrighted, which is my intellectual property, and which has a universal right, and which is I have said. This is the last time we clarify this. Otherwise, we will proceed legally. And let's talk about the ship that is sailing, and it continues with its own program. Sometimes they sail, sometimes they enjoy the way that sailors can enjoy in port. I want to show you the communique from the Bolivarian military, and information for the ship school Simon Bolivar operations in 2018 for 2018 this month. They're sailing and they're teaching. They left the port from Sanssouci in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. They're sailing. They left Sanssouci and they're going towards Mexico. And I have just seen this, so I'm going to the island of Cozumel, destination the island Cozumel in Mexico, beautiful island, and then continue our program for the competition with this will be our second port in the and our 17th port in our overall journey, and they have the authorities waved us goodbye at the port, and they're still part of the frigate competition. Cuauhtemoc, we have several boats, the Cuauhtemoc, Esmeralda, and several boats from ships from Peru. They're still in the frigate competition. And now we are condition 535 geographical latitude 2730 north and 17 north. This is the longitude. 17. This is the 20. So they're around here. This is regarding latitude. Regarding longitude, 7258. This would be latitude, and now we're talking about 70.
está en esta situación.
They're
Pero
around
ahí
here.
hay una
But
pequeña
we
discrepancia.
find there's a
Condiciones ambientales se
discrepancy. The
observó área
conditions
nublada
are
alternada con periodos
cloudy
parcialmente
with
nublados,
partially cloudy,
precipitaciones, viento
changing
variable
with
hasta 13
partial
nudos,
clouds,
mar de
not
marejadilla
13
de
knots,
menos de un
wind,
metro de altura, 0,90,
and
visibilidad buena y moderada. Glosario naval,
good
ancla de
visibility.
respeto.
We
Esto es
have this is very interesting.
histórico.
We're talking about this
Ancla de
historical.
respeto, muy raro oír esto.
This is an
Es el
anchor,
ancla que se
anchor of
utiliza
respect, which
para
is
los
anchor of
fondeos
respect, which
en
is to
condiciones
find in the
adversas, es decir, importantes
this,
tormentas o grandes
for
corrientes.
use when very
Y
important
esto se debe,
storms or with
que
important
lleva una
currents,
vez y media
and
el peso
they
del ancla
you
normal.
and they it has
Es un peso
a
grande que
heavier
mantiene
anchor
pese a las
that
corrientes fuertes
keeps,
y
even in
los
spite
vientos,
of
al buque en la
strong
situación.
winds and currents, that keeps
Esmir
the
Capacho
ship
Delgado, capitán de
steady.
fragata, oficial de
The
guardia del puesto de
captain
comando,
and Antonio
capitán de
Mejia
navío, director de
Ponte
coordinación.
and
Bueno, esto
director of
porque le respecta
coordination.
al
This is
Bravo de
regarding
Cons, buen viento y buena mar.
this is
Continuamos con los
good
acontecimientos en
sailings
pleno
for
desarrollo, pero de otra
for
índole.
the
Y vemos
schools, the ship school,
que tenemos
Simón Bolívar.
aquí
And we
el
see that we have something very interesting
interesantísimo muestreo de lo que son los buques escuelas
regarding
cuando están
the
adornados con
ships
todos los
and
detalles,
ship
¿no?
schools that
Esta es una
are
foto
with their own
bellísima, con
lights.
el
This is a
reflejo en una
beautiful
tranquilísima
picture
agua.
with a
Nuestro
very
embajador sin fronteras
calm,
participó en el
clear
desfile naval de
waters.
despedida frente a las costas de Santo Domingo,
These
en
are
perfecta formación, como
goodbye
decíamos, con los
formation
buques de
in
escuela
Dominican
que aún
Republic
permanecen en la regata
with
Cuauhtémoc de
other
México, Esmeralda
with
de
the other
Chile,
ships that are still in the
Libertad de
frigate,
Argentina, Unión de Perú y Cisne Blanco
from
de
Mexico,
Brasil.
Peru, Chile,
Ahí
and
está,
Brazil.
bellísimo.
Beautiful.
A todas luces dejándonos
And
quedar
all
con
those
esa belleza.
lights that
Bueno.
grace us.
Del desfile que se había hecho
This
en ese
is
sentido.
this
Nos han
is
mandado el video
the
correspondiente.
parade
La
by the
Armada ha
ships that
tenido
we
esta-
have the video
esta
from
cortesía.
from
Ahí teníamos
those
el brasileño, el
ships. We have the
mexicano.
Brazilians, the Mexican ship from
Como han mandado musicalizado y
they
todo.
the video has music included.
Desfile naval de despedida frente a las costas de Santo
This
Domingo,
is
como decíamos.
the
perfecta
parade
formación, con los buques escuelas
for
que aún permanecían en la
for
regata.
goodbye with the,
Otros ya
with
se
the
han retirado.
participating
Esta regata
frigates.
tan larga no todos la
This
siguen,
is
pero es de gran experiencia
this
para
is
los
a great
cadetes.
experience for those
Los que
being
permanecen,
trained,
aparte de, por
and
supuesto,
of course
nuestro buque escuela,
our own ship.
Cuauhtémoc de México,
We have
Esmeralda
still
de
have
Chile,
Cuauhtémoc
Libertad
from
de
Mexico,
Argentina y
Esmeralda
Unión
from Chile,
Perú,
Libertad from
y Cisne Blanco,
Argentina,
Brasil.
and Cisne Blanco,
Todo un
Brazil.
espectáculo de los.
Complete complete
Ahí va el Cisne
show. Very beautiful.
Bueno, ahí veíamos uniformes venezolanos.
This is
Y la
our Venezuelan
gigantesca
report,
bandera
and
de
the
nuestro buque escuela, que fue en su
huge
momento la
flag
más grande del
from
mundo, hasta que
this
después le
used to be
dio
the
algo
biggest one in the
pequeño
world,
lo demás y se
and
cambiaron
there's
los tamaños. Pero fue
that
durante
changed.
décadas la más
But
grande
for
del
decades,
mundo
it was
en
the
cualquier
biggest in the world in any ship.
Vean los gavieros en las alturas. Eso
So
también
we
curte
see
el carácter marinero.
we see
Pero
the
aguas muy
students
calmas ahora.
in the heights, and that
Ahí están los gavieros.
strengthens character for the students.
Y esos eran los nuestros.
Though, and they were,
La altura
they
es
were people.
impresionante.
The height
Primero,
is
trepar es
first
todo un
you have to
ejercicio, ¿no?
climb up.
Mantenerse
That is
arriba
an
navegando.
entire exercise to climb up to those posts.
Esta es cortesía
It's
de
a
la
courtesy
Armada
of
de la República Dominicana.
the naval
Bueno, ahora
forces in
cambiamos
Dominican
algo muy
Republic. Now we go
desagradable.
back to something
Al
that
menos
is
24
terrible.
muertos en accidente de autobús en
24,
Ecuador.
24 dead people in
Vallacta,
Ecuador.
restos del autobús,
The
horas de la
remains
mañana,
of the bus of the
víctimas
transportation
asistidas en horas
accidents
de la mañana temprano. Primero,
the victims
responden.
from this
la policía
transportation.
lleva el cuerpo lejos
The
en horas de la mañana
police take away the
y están las
bodies,
bolsas con los
and we see the body bags.
transportes,
Transportation
muchos casos de que
accidents,
ya no se podía hacer nada.
many cases where
Y
nothing could be
policía y
done.
bomberos asistiendo a
Police
víctimas
and
muy
firemen
temprano en la mañana.
helping the victims very early
Hay
in
un
the
sonido
morning.
sincrónico de
We
defensor de
see,
bombero Verónica
we see a
Toapanta,
sound
que nos explica algo de
from
este dramático
the
accidente del que dimos
correspondent
cuenta
to
en su
Apanta,
momento.
who's talking about about the accident.
Realmente fue
It's
brutal.
something brutal. 3 a.m. and we have been sent to participate in the rescue of a bus with a bus that was impacted against a truck that caused the death of 23 people and 21 adults and 2 children. 14 people that were moved to several hospitals.
Bueno, aquello fue desastroso.
That was
Policía y bomberos
terrible.
describen
So
las
police and
víctimas, 9 de la
firemen,
mañana.
and in dawn in the morning, 19 injured, 23 dead. When a Colombian bus had collided against a truck in Ecuador, and Quito was the foreseen
Bueno, dejemos las malas noticias.
port. So let us leave the bad news behind. Venezuela,
Bien.
also
Otra inaceptable.
another unacceptable. Yesterday, August 13, we presented the several citizens, Colonel Javier Zambrano and General from Alejandro Pérez Gámez,
Yanin Fabiana Pernilla Coronel, Luis Alberto Guerra Jiménez y José Gregorio Blanco García.
all these people. The last 2 were asked them to keep them close because they have to present themselves in the court. Because they don't have a direct implication.
Aumenta 34 la cifra de implicados en
34
el
of those that were complicit in the failed coup against Nicolás Maduro, and 14 have already been charged. Everybody runs when the drone explodes.
Bueno, las
the investigations are very advanced.
Se han emitido 27 órdenes de
We have
captura
27 people that will go to jail. Hydrocarbons hydrocarbons prices have to have international prices so they can go into the international market, and I hope that system works well. I was explaining that person that does not participate in the census, doesn't want to participate in the subsidy, has to pay fuel at international prices. Who here has a car and who's not registered? Prices in Venezuela should rise up to international prices, and the President Nicolás Maduro got together with his cabinet to talk about the issues. Oil and hydrocarbons have to reach international prices to stop the black market and escape to the Caribbean and Colombia. They have benefited of these low prices. Nicolás Maduro has said that somebody who does not answer the census and who does not want to participate will suffer the consequences. The investigation regarding sexual abuse in Chile intensifies. This is really disgusting. Our brothers from the Maristas order are behind doors. Police are investigating the sexual abuse scandal. We are talking about without prejudice to any facilities and all that. To go into this private housing and go ahead with our investigations, and we're going through a process of proves that they're being setting up the abuse. But enough is enough. These are the hardest words. So the hardest words for press has gone against these the ones that abuse against children. You must rather have a stone tied around your leg and throw yourself to the bottom of the sea. So this heavy stone from the mills weighs 3-4 tons. So we're investigating these crimes and the victims, and this is the Chilean fiscal Raúl Guzmán. This disgusting crime is we must dig deeply and all the people that are investigating, they could be considered criminals. Well, read the Bible and read what Jesus had to say for those who abuse children. Vehicles for police cars leave the place, and the Chilean government asked Vatican to turn over documents about the priest against abusing children. So now we're going to march to commemorate all the student martyrs, which is a very important date for all the popular movement in Uruguay. And one of the marches was my colleague. So let's just leave it like that. So this is their slogan. Liberation was their slogan, and those were the students murdered by the government at the time during the dictatorship, military dictatorship that murdered labor workers and students. In '68, they began with security defenses that the authoritarian government had set up to eliminate the protests, and students got together with this mobilization to protest, and the President Mujica has stopped being a Senate in Uruguay and sent through a letter and to the President in the chamber and his wife too, saying that he does not believe that the Senate, as a senator, he can work does not have strength to work from the Senate, but he does dispels any doubts. He will say what he will be doing the next few months and years. The ex-senator, he will participate in the rest of his life, and he will put all his efforts trying to be an activist and in the populist areas, popular areas, and also to participate in the next political electoral candidate. Esperanza, impressive was the funeral from more than 4 Yemen children that were murdered for the coalition against the Saudi coalition against this children's vehicle, and the world still ignores this. Impressive. 40 Yemen children murdered with total impunity by the Saudi Western coalition on the children's vehicle. They attacked children's bus, and something that is completely miserable, and the world ignores this. Those are the corpses of the children. That is the corresponding color for grieving in that area of the world. For funerals, it has to do with the country's colors too. For mourning, it's the color of mourning. Total silence, and only those involved are expressing themselves. This is happening at the moment. This has a political cost. And its consequences we will see with whatever happens afterwards. But it's a massacre. A student's bus, a school bus that were completely very well known and identified. Because this has not appeared in the media, and it's not a news that is completely covered, but it deserves to be covered.
Atilio Borón, arroba Atilio Borón. ¿Recuerdan esta
Is
niña?
a
La
participant in
quemada en
Twitter, so
Vietnam
remember
con
the
una bomba
child
de napalm.
burned
Inolvidable.
by the napalm
¿Quién
bomb
es el
in
más
Vietnam.
letal terrorista del
Who is the
mundo?
biggest lethal
¿Al-Qaeda,
terrorist
ISIS,
in the world?
Daesh? No.
Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Daesh?
Es
No,
Estados
it's the
Unidos.
United
Por eso
States.
instauró el 9 de
That's why
agosto como
they
Día
set up the
Internacional de
9
los
August
Crímenes
as the
de Estados Unidos
international,
contra la humanidad.
the United States crimes against humanity. On Monday,
Se revivió el tema.
the subject sprung up.
Chileno
The Minister of Culture, Chilean, has to resign against critics against the Museum of the Memory that remembers the crime against in Pinochet, and their own party has forced his resignation. Pacos are this is complete. They will shoot down a driver. They will hit women that sell salads, and they can victimize dogs. They can also victimize the Mapuche people gone from Chile. Supreme Court rejects freedom from a pilot that sent the body of the teacher Martogarte to the sea, and is one of the pilots from the death caravan that asked for freedom, and this is and the Supreme Court took away did not listen to the appeal for the pilot who was condemned for crimes against humanity. And Polanco, the pilot, is going through a trial for several crimes against that has already been condemned, and he cannot access conditional freedom, so they can and it will be revoked or won't be. Prensa.prensa. We cannot breathe in the downtown Santiago against the students' statutes. This is happening in Santiago.
Lamentable, para variar,
unfortunate, the repression and the situation in Santiago, and this is not the only point where this is happening. So look at the pressure coming from out of the and it covers one entire block. This is information, last-minute information that we have given you outside of our pre-production framework, because this is what we want to show you what is happening currently, and you've seen it in the southern night. Very dramatic, everything that we have seen, but also a lot of justice that is being taken into account. So wherever you may be on the other side of your screen, thank you for being with us tonight with the Studio 3, Venezolana la Televisión VTV, pioneer channel in Venezuela, because it comes from TV5, where we began in 1970 in Cerro Marin, where the general had left it, and it's the first government from President Caldera. So here, they have honored us with a lot of recognition, but our biggest recognition is to have you on your side of the screen and be on our first spot in spite of everything that is happening. So wherever you may be here or wherever else in this big country and beyond its borders, because as I said, the the information that we get from all the news that we have, and we have also through our satellites and our networks, and this is very gratifying and very exciting. As producer and creator of the program, even for all the props, the sets, everything that make up the program. In my time, the producer had to work, the cameras had to know cameras, edition, the script, everything, and also the way to achieve it. So this has become a reference, and some journalist students have asked me to show some archives, but we don't have any more moments tonight. But I do confirm what I said to some communication students. We were the first ones to show the floor, and also the bragging or the boasting that we do is when we do our own style that the producer that presents, and we do not use production scripts or teleprompter. The same edition that you supervise it, the same rule that we apply it. And of course, you need to study a lot. It's not just a matter of just to come, have coffee and see what somebody else has wrote and see what happens. But this is what we carry in our blood, and because what you wrote, I know that you carry it too, and we have records and prizes in journalism prizes. The last one was Simon Bolivar Prize, but we began as with the prize as in written press, radio, and TV. It is not an ego massage, but the journalists here do have preference, and we answer their questions. So this is our dossier for Chile tonight, and we finished a little bit early tonight. Very grateful for you. So good night.